A person wearing a tan ranger hat and gray uniform shirt stands holding a microphone on a small stage. Behind them is a projection screen displaying text listing various government departments and agencies.
Well, good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to our final program here in the 10 Mini Voices for today. And welcome to Core Discovery 2. Core Discovery 2 is a national traveling exhibit. It's been on the road since January of 2003, traveling on the Lewis and Clark Trail. And we're actually now on our return journey. We're on the home stretch. We'll finish up in September in St. Louis, and that'll wrap up Core Discovery 2. As we travel all these different communities along the Lewis and Clark Trail, we set up this 10 Mini Voices, and we invite in a wide variety of people to share different aspects of that Lewis and Clark expedition, but also to share the history and the culture of all these indigenous nations, all these American Indian nations along the Lewis and Clark Trail. And we have with us this afternoon Burton Pretty On. And Burton is a Crow spiritual leader. He was telling me back in 1986 he represented the indigenous peoples of the Americas in Assisi, Italy for a World Peace and Prayer Day, was it?
World Day of Prayer.
World Day of Prayer. And he was there with the Dalai Lama, with Pope John Paul II and Mother Teresa, and representing the Crow people and the American Indian people in general. He's going to talk about Crow history and culture, religion, and spirituality. So let's give Burton a warm welcome to the 10 Mini Voices.
Thank you very much. First of all, I'd like to welcome all the visitors that came to Apsáalooke country. We call ourselves Apsáalooke in our own language. Our traditional name, Apsáalooke. Back in the day...
A person wearing a black cowboy hat, sunglasses, white plaid shirt, and blue jeans stands beside a display board showing various circular objects and images. Text on the left lists federal agencies and organizations.
When a fur trapper came out here, our first encounter with the non-Indian was a fur trapper that came to our people before Montana existed, before Wyoming existed. At that time, the fur trapper came to us and connected with us and asked us who we are, what are we called. And we told him that we're called Apsáalooke in our traditional language. And then he said, what does that mean? And we told him it means, very simply, children of the long-beaked bird, the long-beaked bird. So from that encounter, he went back east and told the other non-Indian people back east that he met a group of Indians out in the plains area that called themselves Apsáalooke. And then they asked him, what does Apsáalooke mean? And he was very proud. He says, children of the long-beaked bird. And then they asked him one other question. They said, which bird is that? And the gentleman says, you know, scratching his head, he says, I forgot to ask him that question. But you know, there's a lot of crows out there, so they must be talking about the Crow tribe. So today, 2006, we're still called the Crow tribe. The correct interpretation of the long-beaked bird is the raven. We're always called the raven people by the other Plains Indians. So at least that fur trapper didn't misinterpret it, that long-beaked bird, as being the turkey, right? Somehow, crow sounds a little better than turkey. Otherwise, we'd be called the turkey tribe today. Anyway, as the gentleman introduced me, I was part of a world...
A person wearing sunglasses, a black cowboy hat, a light blue plaid shirt, and blue jeans stands on a stage. Behind them, a dark backdrop displays text mentioning U.S. Army Corps Department, Energy, and Fish and Wildlife.
Gathering for Peace in Assisi, Italy in 1986. Pope John Paul II at that time had gathered the different traditions of the world to assemble in Assisi, Italy to pray for world peace. I found it very interesting that that day in October of '86, let me go back just a little bit. A selection committee in New York City, knowing that the Pope had invited the indigenous people from the Americas to represent them, Nominations were made of about 75 people, spiritual leaders across the Americas. From January of 1986, they met several times in New York City where there was a kind of elimination process. Eventually, in June of 1986, they selected the two individuals to represent the indigenous people from the Western Hemisphere. My uncle John Pretty On top, myself, were the two that were selected. So in order to prepare myself for this big undertaking for a World Gathering for Peace in Assisi, Italy, I followed my Crow tradition. As a child growing up by my grandfather, I was told that our leaders in the past, Chief Pleniku, died in 1932, Medicine Crow, Two-Legans, Bell Rock, all of our great chiefs among the Apsáalooke went and fasted up in the mountains, receiving a vision from the Creator. They came back home and became prophets for our people. This is pretty much the same way as the one that was nailed to the cross that you call Jesus Christ. He too went into the desert, didn't he, for 40 days and 40 nights. Fasted, without food and water, eventually receiving a vision, came back and became a prophet, became the Savior of all people. With that in mind, there is a connection with that spirituality and our spirituality here in Apsáalooke country. Because of our history, as a child growing up with my grandfather, him sharing the stories with me, how these individuals in the past, leaders of the Crow, went and fasted for 4 days and 4 nights without food and water, came back and became leaders for our people. I was fascinated as a child growing up. So I too, at the age of 27 or 28, I went up the mountains and fasted. Since that time, until the present day I'm standing in front of you, I have fasted 12 times without food and water. And each time there was a different experience that the Creator blessed me with on the 4th morning. With that in mind, before I went to Assisi, back in 1986, I went to the crazy mountains behind Big Timber, Montana. Before Big Timber existed, before Montana existed, the Apsáalooke, that was one of our sacred mountains, the crazies, we call in our traditional language, Apsáalooke. Translation means jagged mountains. If any of you are familiar with the crazy mountains, they're about 11,000 feet high, and it's above the timberline, those jagged granite peaks. Our language is very descriptive, so that back in the day, Apsáalooke called that.
A person wearing a white plaid shirt, black cowboy hat, and sunglasses stands at a microphone on stage, gesturing with one hand. Presentation materials and text about conservation and government agencies are visible in the background.
That sacred mountain, Apsáalooke, jagged mountain. Oftentimes our young leaders at that time went up in the mountains, fasted, and came back home. Our connection with that sacred mountain is very strong, going back in our human history, to the point where, being a small tribal people, other Plains tribes would often come and challenge us for our, what we considered as Apsáalooke land, our hunting areas. At that time, when we were outnumbered and chased by the enemy, we would often go into the crazy mountains, Apsáalooke, and knowing, the other tribes knowing of our connection with that sacred mountain, they would turn away and leave us. So that was kind of like a fortress for us. With all that in mind, I went up the crazies before I went to Assisi, Italy, and fasted for 4 days and 4 nights to prepare myself mentally, physically, and spiritually to represent the indigenous people that day. I was very fortunate to be selected, so I went in that way. After my fast, we traveled to Assisi, landed there. The Vatican came and welcomed us at the Rome airport. And the Vatican picked up our tab of going and coming back. Also, 10 years previous, we went in 1986, so I take that back. A short 2 years before that time, which would have been about 1984, Omar Gaddafi had went to Rome airport with his terrorists and shot everybody up. And there was over 100 people that were killed that time. Omar Gaddafi made a threat in 1986 that he was going to come back to Rome and do the same thing. So when we arrived in Rome, all the people that were there welcomed us from the Vatican, representing the Pope, and they took us to the side area where the normal entry into that country. They took us to the side area, and they put us into limousines, and they drove us to the Vatican. During that time of 9 days, they had 3 plainclothes Italian policemen there with us. So they were with us for the 9 days we were there. Eventually we came back. Now, I met Mother Teresa, the Dalai Lama, John Paul II, all the Archbishop Brunswick from Canterbury, England was there. But we gathered together with one voice. The Buddhists, the Hindu, the Muslim, the Shinto faith, Zoroastrians, the Jewish, the Christian churches into one, and we represented the indigenous people from the Western Hemisphere. With that in mind, the respect that was shown to us was something that I didn't expect. They laid out the red carpet for us that day when we wore our headdress and our buckskin outfits.
A person wearing a white checkered shirt, black cowboy hat, and sunglasses stands at a microphone on stage. Text visible on the left reads Conserva, U.S. Army CO. Department. Management, and SH and Wild. A display board with images is visible on the right.
We raised our pipe in prayer for peace. I can always remember the audience. I can remember the cameras flashing. All around us. And when we prayed in our traditional language, when we raised the pipe in that outdoor plaza outside of St. Francis Basilica, you could hear a pin drop. The media could not come near us because of the security. We were sectioned off. I sat here, Mother Teresa sat right across from me. That was quite an experience. Afterwards, I met Mother Teresa and I told her, I said, Mother Teresa, Native American, I come to you in peace. She was only about this tall, very small lady. She says, Americano, Indiego. And I said, that's close enough. And I extended my hand, and I said, it's an honor for me to meet you. I extended my hand. She took one step away from me like this, put her hands together and went like this. She was greeting me in her way, so I took a step back from her, and the both of us are going like this now, with all the media around us. And she had that big smile on her face, and then she went like this. So
A person wearing a light blue checkered shirt, dark cowboy hat, and sunglasses stands on a stage. Text listing government agencies is visible on a dark background behind them.
Took a step forward, we shook hands, and she gave me a bear hug. I always remember that. She gave me a bear hug, and I told her, I said, Mother Teresa, can you please give me a blessing? And for such a small lady, she's my color. For such a small lady, she had big hands. She put her hand on my forehead. I had my headdress on. I went like this. So she touched my head and gave me a blessing. Then she took a step back and says, you, give me a blessing. I said, yeah, I can. So I asked her, open your hands like this, which she did. And I had my pipe with me, so I took out my pipe. And I stood in front of her like this, and I pointed at her forehead. And I made a circle around her. And at the conclusion, we gave each other a bear hug, and about that time, security took her away and took me away. But that was quite an experience. Also, I want you to know this, that our Crow culture has taught us that all people on the face of this earth are brothers and sisters. Our elders have taught us that there's no distinction between God and all of his children on this earth. No distinction between color, races of people, nor there's any distinction between male and female. Therefore, with that in mind, I went with open arms to pray in the Crow traditional way, using the pipe. It's an experience in my life I will not forget. Thereafter, I met John Paul 2 more times, John Paul II. It's history now because John Paul has passed on. Mother Teresa also has passed on, so that's part of history now. In the November 10th issue of the Time magazine, if you open it up, right in the center of that article, November 10th issue of the Time, you'll see a full page. It calls A Summit for Peace in Assisi, Italy. John Paul is pictured with Archbishop Brunswick from Canterbury, England, Russian, Greek Orthodox priests on either side of him. Picture of Mother Teresa. Down at the bottom is a picture of my uncle and myself, and I'm the one with the white buckskin raising that sacred pipe. That's something that is part of history, and I'm very proud of that, and I thank the Creator for that. In our Crow culture and in our history, going back to our Crow creation story, Apsáalooke, creation story, we're told that God has made us, the Apsáalooke people, out of earth, formed us into His image, and breathed life into us, and set us on this earth. At that time, He put us in this place where we exist today. This is our Crow human history. Our origins are
A person wearing a white plaid shirt, cowboy hat, and sunglasses stands on stage gesturing while speaking. Text visible behind them references the Department of the Interior, Bureau of Indian Affairs, Corps of Engineers, and Wildlife Service.
beginnings as human beings. Our Creator blessed us and put us here. With that in mind, the Creator told us in our human history that there will be times when there's skirmishes coming into, other people coming into our area of land to try to take it away from us. But He told us in the covenant that one of our great chiefs back in the 1700s, Chief No Vitals, Chief No Vitals, was one of our great leaders. And from that vision quest that he had made as a young man, God gave him the gift of tobacco. Told him that if you use this tobacco to pray with me and to smoke with me, I will listen to you. That covenant that he had made, as long as you are a people on this earth, you're not going to number in big population-wise, but rather other people will come to your neck of the woods to take away the land that I've given to you because it is the best that I have created. So with that in mind, in our human history, our encounters with our surrounding plains tribe, the Sioux, the Cheyenne, the Arapaho, would often team up and come to our neck of the woods to annihilate us. But through the graces of the Creator, there was a battle that occurred outside of Pryor, Montana. All the others had come to us to annihilate us. They had us cornered. And it was the Creator that day that saved us, riding a pinto horse, a red pinto horse. When they had us completely surrounded, this gentleman that rode a red pinto horse rode fearlessly and attacked the enemy, went into their ranks, killing the Sioux, the Cheyenne, and Arapaho, came back to us, joined us, and the second time he went in there, the people knew that the second time he came that their arrows could not touch this person. It hit and fell. He went through killing some, came back, and the third time he attacked all the Crows. Being outnumbered, some have said 20 to 1 that day. Some have said 17 to 1. But we were completely surrounded, and on the third attack, all the Crows gathered their courage and followed behind. All those people, they chased back to the Dakotas. And that's part of our history, that we still exist today. And from that covenant of the Creator blessing us in that way, that He will come to us in time of need, for us to call Him by His first name, Ijigbalya. His name translated means first maker, that He has blessed us in that way, and that covenant that He has said with our people still exists today. Back in the, after our first...
A person wearing a white plaid shirt and sunglasses stands holding a microphone on a stage. Text visible behind them references the Department of the Interior, Army Corps of Engineers, and Bureau of Wildlife Service.
First encounter with the non-Indian people that came to us, we were told that the Bash Tashida, the Yellow Eyes that came to us in big numbers. It was best for us to make agreement with them, become allies with these people, which we've done. Pliniku, on his vision quest, was told that you need to shake hands with the Bash Tashida and be friends and be allies with them. Therefore, you have a better chance to exist in this world for X amount of years. So, survival, we shook hands with the U.S. government, 1825, we signed a friendship treaty with the U.S. government. That day, we became allies with the U.S. government by shaking hands. We helped them when they came across our Apsáalooke land. In turn, when we had a skirmish with other tribes, they too would support us. So this friendship treaty was put in place in 1825. In 1851, our first treaty with the U.S. government, Fort Laramie Treaty of 1851, set aside what we considered as Apsáalooke land. At that time, the four areas that set aside the Apsáalooke land would be the Three Forks area, going in a direction where it meets the big river we call Apsáalooke, Big River, would be the Missouri to the north. It goes downward to the Powder River into the Black Hills. So that was our boundary to the east. To the south was the area that what is called Wind River today, which takes you halfway into Wyoming. That was our boundary to the south. And to the west, the boundary was the headwaters of the Yellowstone River, which takes you into Yellowstone National Park. That covered 38 million acres at that time. Consequently, in 1851, when we signed that treaty with our leaders' thumb imprints, back in 1868, the government came back and told us that they gave us too much of land. So from that treaty that they had broken with us, they took away 30 million and left us with 8 million. From other cessions of land with the government, today we have 2.2 million acres. And also today we have 11,000 Crow enrolled members. We've never been big. We've always been small. Compared to the Navajo, over 250,000 Navajos in Arizona and New Mexico area. Compared with them, we've always been small. But the Lord has blessed us, the Creator has blessed us in a way that we still speak our Apsáalooke language today, which is other Plains tribes have lost their languages. In losing their language, they have lost pretty much their culture.
A person wearing a white plaid shirt, dark cowboy hat, and sunglasses stands at a microphone on stage. Text behind them lists federal agencies including the Army Corps of Engineers and Bureau of Indian Affairs.
As well. Here in Apsáalooke, we still speak the Apsáalooke language. Well, the Apsáalooke shitchihu, the Walechwa Isha, Ajapa Ek Bagkula, a Malash Bilikuche, Hem, a Malash Bachwa. My brothers and sisters, what I just shared with you in Apsáalooke is very simply, along with the color of the skin that God has blessed me with, is my language and my spirituality. We're told that our language is sacred because it came from Him. So we still speak our language today. Probably 90% of our people that are 35 and over speak the Apsáalooke language. Our challenge today is the 34 down to the newborns. They'd rather speak English than they would Apsáalooke because we have technology that has kind of put a road barrier in front of our people, because from early morning we turn the television on, our children watch television, they hear the English language. Up until the night when it's time for bedtime, we shut it off. So today our challenge is our young children. We need to somehow get in touch with them and have them speak the Apsáalooke language. That's so important for us. Part of our history, we have rich human traditions among the Apsáalooke and strong in spirituality. That too has a place within us. This morning, there was a dance presentation that I emceed, and we saw little babies that were 2 years old with their little traditional outfits out here dancing. That's the emphasis we put forth to our children, emphasizing that it is good to know your culture and your traditional teachings. As I speak today, I have in my computer, I'm the public relations director for the Crow tribe. In my computer today, I have put in place the traditional teachings of our elders given to us from generation to generation, oral history, oral traditions, teachings. And those that I remembered from my grandfather when he was still alive, when I was a little boy growing up with him. I remember the do's and don'ts. Hiriada, hiriada, hiriada. Do this, do this, do this. Hiriajasa, hiriajasa, hiriajasa. Don't do this, don't do this, don't do this. I call them the do's and don'ts of our traditional teachings. And I put into my computer the ones that I remembered, number 1, listing number 2, and I have 92 do's and don'ts at this time. We no longer teach them among the Apsáalooke today. The reason I recorded all this is that in time when I'm finished with that project, I'm going to get a copyright, have it printed, and I'm going to sell that. But I'm going to make that free for the Apsáalooke.
A person wearing a white and blue plaid shirt, cowboy hat, and dark sunglasses stands at a microphone with hands gesturing while speaking. Behind them is a dark curtain and text listing various government departments and agencies.
So they will never go without our traditional teachings. Today, within our culture, we emphasize not only our language, but our traditional celebrations, such as dancing, such as Indian hand games, Indian games that we compete against each other. Within our Crow spirituality today, and within our culture, ladies and gentlemen, we have 7 clans that we follow. Each and every tribal member belongs to one of these 7 clans. We're a tribe that followed their mother's clan at birth. I belong to the Whistling Water because my mother is a member of the Whistling Water. So all of her children, including myself, are a member of the Whistling Water at birth. But our father's clan are pretty much like in the Catholic Church. I'm also a Roman Catholic, by the way. Being asked to be a godfather, a godparent at baptism, we have that responsibility when we stand next to a child or an infant during that baptism, that we will be their spiritual directors. With that in mind, within our structured society we live in today, the clans of our father become our spiritual advisors and those people that pray for us. We call them our clan uncles and aunts of that same clan. So with myself, my mother being Whistling Water, at birth I became a Whistling Water. But my father's clan belonged to the Big Lodge. The Big Lodge clan within the Apsáalooke today are my extended family of spiritual advisors and spiritual people that pray for me. It is oftentimes when we go into the sweat lodge within our spirituality that we go in to cleanse ourselves, mind, physical, the 4 beings, so that once we cleanse ourselves in that extreme heat, in that dome that looks like one of them igloos from Alaska, that round dome. This one, it's made out of willow, covered with canvas and blankets, and rocks are taken into that small area, enough for about 7 or 8 people. In that one area, they dig the ground about this deep, heat the rocks outside, they bring it in and put it into that deep cut-off area. And when the men all go in there together, the men would say a prayer and splash water on top of that to provide this sauna for us. This is a cleansing that we do for ourselves today. Anyone that is going and traveling and doing something extraordinary often would use that way to pray for each other, to give guidance for that individual. Another way of prayer also among our people is using the peyote, the Native American church. This too.
A person wearing a white plaid shirt, cowboy hat, and sunglasses stands at a microphone on a stage. Text visible behind them lists various government agencies including the Army Corps of Engineers, Department of the Interior, and Bureau of Land Management.
Is held in a teepee. We go inside, we pray all night. And within this sacred way, because I'm a Catholic, I'm going to use the comparison of the 2 ways. Being a Catholic, when I enter the church, we sit down, oftentimes the priest will pray and then smudge the area with incense to purify us. During that Mass, the Catholics believe, and I too believe, that the bread that he puts into that sacred cup and blesses it, and it becomes the body of Christ. Much in the same way, when he blesses that wine, it becomes the blood of Christ. With that same analogy in the Native American church, when we take that peyote button and we bless it, it becomes the body of Christ. When we bring in water and bless that water, that too becomes the blood of Christ. So we take that in that sacred way. There are sacred songs that are sung. and prayers that are used for that night. We give up our sleep, so in exchange, the Creator will bless us with our prayers for our family and relatives. Among the Apsáalooke today, not only the clans, but there's individuals that go into the sun dances. They will fast for 3 or 4 days without food and water. That too is used today as I speak. Again, part of our spirituality, the Tobacco Society, that God gave a covenant, made a covenant with us, that if we use the tobacco to pray to Him, that He will bless us. That too is being used today. I am one that goes up in the mountains and fasts for 4 days and 4 nights. And that too is part of my spirituality. To me, if I go into a Catholic church in St. Peter's Basilica in Rome, or St. Patrick's in Billings, Montana, or St. Denis Parish here in Crow Agency, when I pray to the Creator in that environment, or whether I'm outside on top of the crazy mountains, when I pray to the Creator, it is to the one Creator that I'm praying to, whether I'm in a Catholic church or up on top of a mountain. So with that in mind, God is everywhere. He is near us. As in those special times, God, as we pray to Him, will connect with us and bless us in that good way. This is our spirituality. Also, on the flip side, we have the games that I mentioned. We have the hand game tournament every year around April and May. We have the hand game tournament where all the 6 different districts among the Apsáalooke will go and represent each district with a team. By team, I mean young men and women. Some young men will sing, the guessers.
A person wearing a white shirt with a grid pattern, sunglasses, and a black cowboy hat stands at a microphone. Behind them is a backdrop with text mentioning the Army Corps of Engineers, Department of the Interior, and Bureau of Land Management.
On the main floor, right up in front, and back will be all the women that participate. So it's for men and women. They have the junior category, which will be 30 and under. 31 on up is the adult category. We have the arrow throwing tournament each spring. They have arrows about this long with a pointed iron attached to the base, which is pointed, and then feathers attached to the top. So when they throw at a target arrow that they throw first, and everybody throws their arrow to try to hit that target arrow. There again, this is a game that the Apsáalooke use. There are many others like that we still use today. Going back to our human history, our first encounter that I shared with you with the non-Indian person that came among us, we call him Bashchida. Today, standing here 2006, we still call the non-Indian people Bashchida. Translation means yellow eyes. Apparently that individual, that fur trapper that came among us that day, that connected with us, asked us who we were, and went back east, apparently had some type of disease where the yellow of his, or the white of his eyes were yellow. So they call him Baishtashida. Translation means yellow eyes. So to this day, it's not a put down, it's just the way that things happened back then that we still call the non-Indian people Baishtashida, yellow eyes. It's not a put down, don't take me in the wrong way. Also, today, in our history, as in the past to the present day, animals are very important for us. We have horses. Before the horses' arrival, we used dogs. Dogs would often be used in transferring from one location, moving camp, following the buffalo herds to another camp. The dogs were used in that way to carry the travels with personal belongings that were put on top of the travels. And then when the horses was introduced to us, it meant easier for us to move from place to place because horses are bigger and much stronger than the dog. So with that in mind, during that time when the horses were introduced to us, it was like getting into the new era of our people. We went from the dog days to the horse days. And then from there, we went another step forward, and that was the introduction of ilala, goes by itself, the word that we have for cars, vehicles. The old Model Ts that you crank up front like this, backfires and they start up and use those automobiles. Fords were out here. Before John Dillinger was out here.
A person wearing a white and blue plaid shirt and sunglasses stands at what appears to be a presentation or speaking event. Text visible in the background references various U.S. government departments and bureaus.
But those are different transitions between one generation to another. From the Model Ts, today we have what is used by everyone, vehicles, four-wheel drives, and all this. One of our traditional teachings is to respect Awakawa, the mountains. We're told that back in the day, before the arrival of the Europeans out here, the medicine herbs that were taken from the ground to doctor each other with different ailments, we would often go to the Awakawa, the mountains, to get those herbs. The medicine people would take those herbs with a different mixture of things that they would help each other with common colds, coughs, and others that was among our people back then. So as you can imagine, people today going to the pharmacy to get their medicine, the mountain back in the day was our pharmacy. That's where our leaders went to get those herbs and plants to mix and to help people. We're told to respect the Oahawa, Crazy Mountains, the Bighorns, the Wolf Mountains, the Bighorns on the reservation. Also, we're told in our tradition to respect each other and to respect all people. This is again one of our traditional teachings. One must respect themselves and respecting others. And we're told in our tradition, I said earlier, to respect all people, because the white race, the yellow, the black, and the red, all those four races of people are brothers and sisters. This is what is taught to us as children growing up. So with that in mind, the Oriental people, the yellow, the white people, the black people, the African Americans, and the red, the indigenous people of this land. We're told that all these four colors are created by Him and put on this earth to live in peace and harmony with each other. So that is our traditional teachings, which we still follow today. So when we see our brothers and sisters that come among us, we welcome them, we embrace them, sharing good things with them. Our culture has taught us that our history is so important that it has to be printed today. This oral history that we have used from day one up until recently of oral history has often changed. So with that in mind, we're told and reminded we need to record it on paper, black and white. And we have done this. I'm very happy that we're starting to do all this. Also, we're told in our tradition that every morning when the sun comes up from the east, all people on this earth need to recognize that God has blessed you with another brand new day.
A person wearing a white plaid shirt, cowboy hat, and sunglasses stands on a stage with one arm raised, gesturing upward. Text visible behind them lists various federal agencies and bureaus.
That has never been used by anyone. Be thankful to the Creator that He has blessed us with a beautiful day again. Raise your hands to the Creator and say, Aho, thank you. And be the best that you can be. Not necessarily for yourself, but for other people around you. It is good when you share good stories and use your words very carefully in a way not to hurt anyone, but rather build someone up. It is good that we do this. In that pipe ceremony, I'm going to emphasize the importance of understanding about that ritual. When I use
a person wearing a white plaid shirt, dark cowboy hat, and sunglasses stands on a stage with a microphone. Text visible on a banner behind them references various government agencies and departments.
Sacred pipe in prayer, and I pray to the sun. People often ask, oh, these Apsáalooke, or these indigenous people must have many gods. That's untrue. When I raise that pipe to the sun, my question is this: who created the sun? Some rocket scientist, and Einstein? The Creator made that sun and put it in its place. Therefore, because God created the sun, His Spirit is within that sun. When I lower to the Mother Earth, I smoke with Mother Earth, when I smoke with her, who made the earth? God. His fingerprints on earth. Therefore, God's Spirit is within that earth. When I prayed to the water with that pipe, who created the water? Ijikpada, first maker. When I prayed to the winds in the four directions, who created the air? Creator. Therefore, His Spirit is within that. So it's through them that we reach the Creator with our prayers. Much like in the Catholic Church, being a Catholic, when you use the rosary, in prayer, it is through that rosary that we reach the Creator. When we open up the Bible, read the Scriptures, the sacred Scriptures, it is through that we reach the Creator. Much in that same way, our interpretation of life and our spirituality is within those elements, sacred elements.
A person wearing a light blue plaid shirt, dark cowboy hat, and sunglasses stands with one hand raised, gesturing while speaking. Text on screen lists federal agencies including the Conservation Service, Army Corps of Engineers, Department of the Interior, Bureau of Land Management, and Wildlife Service.
Of those four sacred elements, if God at this moment took all the air from the atmosphere, who can survive? What can survive? Nothing. If all the water that's here, that God has put in place, if the water has all disappeared, who can survive? Nothing. And if the sun quit coming up from the east to provide us with this heat, give us energy, without fire, we're nothing. All those four sacred elements, including the earth, is within our bodies. When you touch each other, hold hands, you feel the heat that is inside us, that fire is within us. The water, when you move around, sometimes you feel the water slushing around. You can feel that as well. How does earth come into us? All of our food comes from earth into our bodies. Therefore, earth is part of us. And all of us, as we sit and breathe, that sacred air is within all of us. This is our spirituality. I'm going to leave a portion of this time for question and answers. At this time, I'm going to conclude, see if there's any questions at this point from anyone.
If you have a question for Burton, please do raise your hand. I'll bring the microphone around. That way everybody can hear your question. Any questions for Burton Pretty On top?
Any part that you'd like for me to talk about that I have not discussed, please bring it out and I will share that with you.
All right. Well, it doesn't look like any questions, Burton.
Okay, I'm going to pass out the questionnaire at this time. They have to take a test, and if they...
A person wearing a white shirt, blue pants, black cowboy hat, and sunglasses stands on a stage gesturing while speaking. Behind them is a screen displaying information about various government agencies and departments. Text appears on the left side of the frame.
Pass it, they can go. If they fail it, they have to stay here for another hour. I'm just teasing.
All right. Well, that's